It's very hard to be an inclusive school, I think. You try an awful lot, and sometimes you pass, you succeed, and other times you fail, and it's a constant learning curve.
We see Wadhurst as an example of good practice. It is an inclusive school. The School Improvement Service monitored their practice recently and found that in terms of tracking the progress of pupils who are vulnerable to underachievement, they were pretty well developed with their practice. The SEN monitoring officers have assessed them and they found that it was an extremely inclusive school. There were excellent relationships with the pupils with statements and that the pupils made good progress.
Wadhurst Primary School in East Sussex is a small school doing well. And not just with mainstream pupils, they've also successfully integrated 10 statemented children with varying degrees of disability. In this programme, we focus on 3 of the pupils to find out how this has been achieved. Where has outside help and support been found? How useful has it been? And how creative has the school had to be in finding their own solutions to problems?
Tia, can you fill these ones along the bottom for me?
How does the school cope with a pupil like Anna, an 8-year-old with severe visual impairment?
What did you think when you first heard that you were going to get a severely visually impaired pupil at your school?
This is going to be interesting. I think my first thoughts were, yes, this could be quite exciting, a bit of a challenge. I thought that it could be quite difficult, but what I think was really encouraging was the amount of support that there was available, that there were experts coming into the school who had already worked with Anna, who knew what she could do, and would advise us on hiring staff to work with her.
So there he is. Would you like to see a horse's skeleton?
Why was it so important to Anna's parents that she attend a mainstream school?
So we wanted her to be part of the community so that she could build up friendships, links with the people around her.
Visually impaired pupils face enormous difficulty in curriculum access. This is not something that schools ordinarily would have had to face in the past. This is a specialist area and we have specially trained staff to support the school in meeting the needs of these very special children. We try very hard not to have a cost implication for the school, so these children are cost negative and it isn't a weight financially on the school. The support we provide is comprehensive and thorough. We also provide funding for the training for the TA. And we're very responsive to the school's needs, so we believe it's a good relationship.
There we are.
Jean Thompson is the visiting teacher for children with visual impairment provided by the LEA. She supports the teaching staff and works directly with Anna.
On a weekly basis, I'll come in and see Anna 3 times. That would be 2 mornings and 1 afternoon. I would have also a planning meeting with Kate, the teacher. We would discuss the work for the coming week. I would look at it, see if any of it is not suitable for Anna, and modify it as such. Hand edge straight down, justified, right. And therefore
we go through all the plans to make sure Jean understands where I'm coming from. I'll get any necessary resources ready for her, any sort of practical equipment she might need from around the school. We'll talk about the equipment Anna already has and how it will link in with the plans.
Sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's simply a question of transcribing something from print into braille, which is relatively straightforward. At other times it can be quite hard, for instance some maths work which is very visual in its nature, may take some getting around to actually work out the best way to put this forward for Anna to be able to understand the mechanics behind it.
The other pupils can't braille, but I can because I'm not blank blind, but I find things hard like blind people do sometimes.
I think that systems are well developed for people who have a visual impairment. There are lots of kind of aids for them, and I mean she has teaching assistants who are learning braille, and we have a support teacher who comes in regularly who support them and support the class teacher and really help them also in modification of resources and that kind of thing.
Mistakes are made, but everyone learns as they go along.
Assuming she can see where I'm pointing is the worst one. Because I say, oh, we need to put that here. And because I haven't actually said where here is, I've just kind of pointed.
I like PE because you get to do fun PE games. Sometimes I find it hard to do different catches, like this one, elbow flick, and the shoulder flick.
For Anna, it's been excellent, really good. We've had a lot of support, a lot of funding. I think it's worked really well for her here. She's got a lot of friends, a lot of people who have time for her, who look for her in the playground. You very rarely see Anna on her own unless she chooses to be.
For pupils with sensory needs, either deaf or visually impaired, the level of support that can be accessed is high. But how has the school coped with other types of statemented pupils? Daniel has cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair. He needs a lot of support. The LEA has paid for a number of structural changes to the school. Ramps and disabled toilets have been built. But is there enough daily help on hand?
I think the support we get covers most of what we need. One of the problems is obviously he needs 2 people to take him to the toilet, and in order to release 2 people that means somebody's got to go without, because the level of funding doesn't reach to Daniel having 2 people with him all of the time. What we have is a timetable of people who are prepared to help in different parts of the school, and they take it in on a rota to be called on.
Good reason, excellent.
Giving Daniel a chance to access the curriculum has required a coordinated effort.
Go on then, Daniel.
I think with Daniel it requires a team approach, and the team will consist of the most important players are his class teacher and the teaching assistants who work with him directly. The sort of edge players of that team are me, obviously the head teacher, and the other services that are involved with Daniel. And some of those are from health, some of those are from education. The educational psychologist, there's speech therapy, physiotherapy. My job as a coordinator is to make sure everybody is kind of heading in a similar direction. Everyone sort of knows what the other is expecting or wanting from Daniel.
You want to show the class. Excellent, well done.
But the school needed advice on what that direction should be. So where did they find it?
Through the local special needs special school, and also through one of the local schools, one of the county schools, which had an advanced skills teacher who would come in and support us and support the TAs in terms of what we were demanding of Daniel, because that was one of the early issues, was actually how much can we expect of Daniel, and knowing when he was giving of his best and when he was just perhaps playing around a little bit, because like all little boys, he can be quite willful at times.
In the last couple of years, we've kind of looked into use of computers, and I know that we've had advice from people from special schools where they have a lot of that type of equipment, because we don't know about that kind of specialised equipment at all. A lot of complex needs children, whatever their difficulty, and it's the same for all children really, but just you get there so much quicker, is you try one thing, it doesn't work, and then you move on to another thing. And certainly Daniel's class teacher at the moment is very good at that. She's not phased, because if you're phased every time something doesn't work immediately, then it is, you know, you're making a rod for him, but it's not a positive experience. All those processes are really important for being a better teacher, nothing to do with special needs. But probably you have to do it, it takes longer, and you fail, if you like, more times, or you have to go back to the drawing board more times with children who have complex needs.
Daniel seems to one day respond to something written or spoken, and the next day it kind of changes and you have to try something different. So we're always changing what we're doing and adapting what he needs.
It's a new word now, Dan.
Every day's a challenge, every day's a new challenge, and you come in just with a big grin on your face and think, you know, he's just as important as every other child in the class, and you know, you've got to make it work for them.
If you look round and you watch him at work and you see how happy he is, or even how unhappy he is at times, but the way that he interacts with everybody, the way he is welcomed and accepted by all the children and the staff, I feel it's very successful.
Jacob is in year 1. He has a rare genetic disorder called Soto syndrome. This affects his growth and means he has both learning and speech difficulties. The prognosis is good though, if his educational development is handled correctly.
Jacob came to us in nursery. He has Soto syndrome, which is quite rare. And I must admit, when we first heard that he was coming to us, we all had to go to the books to find out what it meant. We had a lot of support to begin with from the early years service, and they came in and supported him all the way through nursery and into foundation stage. One of his particular issues is very delayed language skills.
Because the speech therapist is very busy, what she does is she gives us a programme and then we kind of pick our way through that. Where it helps, then we use it. And again, there's that kind of whole trial and improvement thing. You know, we might try one thing and it doesn't work, but it's given us a bit of an idea to go in another direction.
I have to do quite a lot of adapting, really. I use a lot of pictures. Do a lot of one-to-one with him, away from the other children, but doing the same things that they've been doing. For instance, if they've had a story and then they've got to write about the story, we'll go away and we'll use pictures from the story to put them in order, to see if he's remembered the sequencing that the story was in.
For most children, you ask them or you find out what they're interested in because they'll tell you, probably without you even asking them. For Jacob, it takes a lot of work, and certainly his teaching assistant works very much. She communicates very well with his parents, and they have a book, and they often talk in the playground. So we know Jacob sometimes through his parents. In the last year or so, he's progressed really well with his speech, and I can remember, you know, even months ago being excited because he was putting 2 words together, and then he gave me a sentence. I think I was on a playground duty and we were talking about an aeroplane, and he actually disagreed with me about what the people on the aeroplane were doing. And I you know, it's these things that you kind of think, oh, that's huge progress.
I think the lessons from Wadhurst is the fact that they're not setting themselves up as experts. They've experienced problems, and the Senko has described it occasionally as being a bit messy, but they keep at it. I think they've achieved it really through the dedication of all the staff. Everybody in the school has to take on board, including the pupils, and I believe that they've done that.
You can have as many experts as you like, but the day-to-day business of making it work comes down to the staff.
The rewards to the children is that they are used to an inclusive society. They know what's the people who are in society, and they don't balk at different people, whatever their difference is. If we're preparing children for society, I think that's extremely important, that they know that society is made up from lots of different people.